Hello there. I guess this is the second edition of Diamond Elbow's Diatribes. um, yeah, I'm pretty tired, and this is pretty impromptu. And I have been going through hell editing the second Bravo Young DeSanto video. It's 20 minutes long, I think, at this point, which is yeah, it's almost 20 minutes long, and adding captions to every individual bit of slow mo is very tedious and annoying. But enough about me. Uh, Happy New Year. I'm tired. You can tell my voice. I'm very, very tired. So, without further ado, I think I'm going to talk about next weekend's main event which is Calvin Kattar versus Giga Chikadze. I would have talked about Selikov Pereira, but first of all, Michelle Pereira is a meme fighter, which means I don't watch film with an analytical eye, so I would have had to study up on that. And when the fight got canceled, I just decided there's no point in studying up. So, uh, yeah, okay. So you know what? Let's just get right into Giga versus Kattar. Okay, now, first of all, I'm gonna say what I would think, assuming that Kattar isn't completely shot because of the life-altering beating that he received in his last fight, in a fight that definitely should have been stopped at multiple points and reminds us all why Herb Dean should no longer be winning MMA Ref of the Year. It should be Jason Herzog. Thank you very much. You can see there's sort of stats up there. Giga has a slightly longer reach. They stand the same. Reach advantage doesn't really matter much though, considering it's like an inch in height and 2 inches in reach. But I don't really care about the whole significant strike accuracy, whatever, because different opponent. Now, Giga, as I'm sure everyone knows, he likes to go off the back foot. He doesn't really like to pressure people. He can kick pretty well off the back foot. His notorious liver kick has kind of become infamous, but I feel like it kind of clouds the fact that he's actually quite good at countering with kicks, and he's all right off the back foot. Ringcraft seems fine. He's solid counter punch. He's not counter puncher. He's solid puncher when he wants to be. He seems all right as a whole. I don't think he's the future champion people think he is, but he's good enough where I can consider him an elite fighter. If that makes any sense for Calvin Kattar. Like, okay, if I was talking about Peter Yan versus Sean O'Malley, there's not a single area where, even if the areas where Sean is specialized in, Yan is guaranteed to be better, yeah, just because levels. But, Giga has shown that he's on an elite level, so I can consider what he's good at relative to what Cater's at in a normal fashion, if that makes any sense. Now, Cater, as I'm sure everyone kind of knows, is really, really, really bad at pressuring. I think he's a bit of an overrated boxer, if I'm being honest. He's got nice mechanics. His 1-2s look really pretty. He plants his feet well, and he hits hard, but he doesn't have the best footwork. He can't counterpunch very well. His head movement's fine, but he doesn't have like impeccable high guard like someone like Peter Yan or whatever. So I do not believe that Calvin Kattar is a top 5 boxer in MMA, a top 10 boxer in MMA, like people think he is. Now, the fact that Giga is going to concede the back foot and isn't going to like rush into the center of the ring means that Kattar is going to decide to pressure him. And everyone knows that Kattar is pretty bad at pressuring. Now, either way, I think this fight's going to show that Giga is not Max Holloway in any shape or form. He's not even close to Max Holloway. I rewatched the Zabit fight for Kattar because even though Zabit fades much faster than Giga, and he's not a similar kicker to Giga. I don't think he's a lot more weird and looping and throws some crazy shit. And Giga's a lot more boom body kick, boom head kick. Uh, Zabit at the very least will show me some flashes of Kattar's kick defense because I can't really use the Holloway fight because it's well. Holloway is better than Chikadze in every single way. So, Kattar's kick defense isn't terrible. It's not, he's not perfect, but he looks fine. in the sense that I don't think it's an enormous weakness for him. So as we've established, Kattar's probably going to have to pressure, and he's not very good at it. He doesn't exactly have perfect ring craft. He doesn't, he's not the best at hurting people, even though, like I said, very pretty boxer, except when he's pressuring. Which means that Giga's going to body kick him a lot, and he's going to head kick him a lot, and he's going to try stuff. He's going to play with body head. He's going to, maybe hit one or two counter punches. I think he hit them against Edson. So, yeah, he's probably going to counter punch him a bit, counter kick him a bit. Now, Kattar, like I said, just kind of average kick defense, so it doesn't seem like an enormous weakness. And I think that's just going to happen for most of the fight until Giga gets tired. Giga is not Zabit with his gas tank, but I do not think he has a top-tier gas tank. He tends to flag a little bit, and he does breathe heavy sometimes, heavier than I think should be appropriate for a guy who should have 5-round cardio. So I'm not sure if Giga has 5-round cardio. And well, as we saw in the Holloway fight, where he ate 50 body shots, Kattar has quite good cardio, and he's got a very good gas tank, and he's quite durable. So either way, I think if the Holloway fight hadn't happened, this would be a coin flip where I might lean Kattar because I think he could take over unless Giga wins the first 3 rounds comfortably. Now, I'm about to bring the Holloway fight for Kattar, which was, I believe, which was about a year ago now. Yeah, it was the first event of the year last year, and it was the first event of the year this year. Oh, and a side note, Kattar is quite a good finisher. I think in the UFC he's had, he's about he's had one late finish, I think, against Burgos, who might be more durable than Chikaze, I'm not sure. Looking at his record right now, he seems to have split between late finishes and early finishes, so I'm not going to factor that much. Now, Kattar might be completely shot because he took a life-altering beating from Max Holloway, and yeah, his durability could be completely gone, his gas tank could be gone, he could be completely gun-shy and unwilling to pressure, which in that case, I just think that Chikaze is going to outpoint him to a rather boring decision. And he might even be so shot that his gas tank would be gone, which means that that would completely even it out. So, given that he's taken time to recover, and given that apparently he stopped sparring, I have hope, I guess, that Kattar might not be so shot that his gas tank's gone, but I think he's probably going to be completely gun shy now, which means that he's probably not going to try and pressure, I don't think, if he's completely gun-shy, which I do think he will be. Which means that Giga will just out-kick him. And, if Kattar can't pressure, he can't really make Giga fade. At least, or at the very least, not fade so badly that Kattar could take over and not let Giga comfortably win the first 3 rounds. I think the minus 240 to plus 200 is a little big. I don't know much about betting odds, but that does seem a little big to me. Now, if Kattar shows up in good form, I might pick him to win the last 3 rounds, but given that I think he is probably done because of that beating he took at the hands of Holloway, I think Giga might knock him out early or just comfortably win 3 rounds. So, also with all the body shots Kattar took, he might hate it. I don't know. There's so many unknowns when a guy takes a beating like that, and I haven't exactly been privy to sparring footage or how he's looked in sparring, or I don't exactly have a spy in his camp, so I would bet that he would be gun shy, or at least shot physically, and that would result in him either being unable to pressure or not willing to pressure effectively, or at least as effectively as Calvin Kattar can pressure, in order to win late and just get out kicked and maybe even finished. So that's, probably Giga. I don't like Giga that much though, so I am hoping for a Kattar win, but I think there's a very good chance he's completely shot. So those are my thoughts on that. Now, let's see. The week after that is UFC 270, which I already covered. For those of you who don't know, check out my last episode It's on my YouTube channel as well. The week after that is Hermanson versus Strickland, which I'm gonna save the main event for another time, but right now I'm just gonna ramble about the fact that Sam Alvey versus Phil Haas is on the card, which is a kind of a very funny fight because Sam Alvey is kind of known for not being very good. It's kind of a joke at this point where if you're going to split decision with him, you may as well retire now. And you know, he's only in the UFC because he shields for Dale, whatever, that doesn't matter. So, Phil Haas, though, he looked so good in his last fight, and then he just got, like, hit once and fell dead completely. So, he should beat the crap out of Alvey. He's a better athlete, he's a better wrestler, he's a better striker, but at the same time, I think he is going, like, it's very possible that he just runs into a right hook off the fence that Alvey loves and just gets knocked out because a gust of wind can probably knock him out. So, I'm going to pick Phil Haas by Flying Gogo Plata, and I think that'll make my feelings on that fight clear. I'll break down Hermanson versus Strickland in a couple weeks, I guess. Yeah, I, yeah, I'll break it down in a couple weeks. So, moving on, we have Twitter questions from my various friends/followers on the app. All right, so I think on Twitter right now, I'm going to start with my good old friend. Once used to be SST1I7, now then transitions to Bobby Knuckles' son, is now Kat MMA. First question, hardest hitter in lightweight history, Prime, Connor, Justin, or Chandler? Well, I think someone, as I'm sure you know, there's two ways where power comes from. There's where your muscle attaches to your bone, and there's a type of muscle fiber you have. So, depending on where your muscle attaches to your bone, you can have more power or less power because of leverage. And there's fast twitch and there's slow twitch muscle fibers. Fast twitch, it means explosiveness, but you tend to gas out late. Slow twitch is, well, the opposite of that. So, those two things combine to form power. Now, a guy like someone like Poirier is kind of an example of how it's possible to build power and how you can have power without the explosiveness. And what I mean by that is, if you look at his featherweight days, he gained a significant amount of muscle in his upper body and, in his back hip, and he turned into a much harder pound-for-pound hitter. He's one of the heaviest-handed lightweights in the history of the sport. But he will have a ceiling for his natural power. And he wouldn't be nearly as fast. And, for any of you who took basic physics, you know that power is force times speed, force times velocity. So it's kind of a combination of, how heavy the individual punches is. Someone like Alex Pereira or what's his face, John Lineker, plus the explosion added to it. Someone like Ngannou comes to mind, or Chad Mendes, John Dodson as well, because those guys, they're just so fast, and you don't see the punches coming. So in terms of hardest hitter, I think Connor is probably the hardest hitter in featherweight history. At lightweight, he's just a really, really good puncher. And a huge part of his power is precision. So if we're talking pure power, I think Connor is a really, really good hitter at lightweight, but I don't think I don't think he's the Ngannou of lightweight. He's the Ngannou of featherweight, yeah. But he is definitely at least top 5 hitters in lightweight history, probably. But I think most of his impact comes from his accuracy. So for pure power, probably not him. Justin, I think, has the heaviest hands out of all of them, and he does hit really hard. But he's sort of a scrappy individual punches, hit hard. His shots, it's not like they're impossible to see coming, like Conor at his best, or what's his face. Whatever. You get the point. Now, Chandler, uh, it'll make me pick obvious, but I think it's Chandler. He is probably at least as fast as Connor, and he seems to have the heavier hands of the two. He he has decent precision as well, so that could even it out because of his single shot setups. But he's knocked out some pretty darn durable people. Uh, Justin, I think. Justin, I think, has is one of those guys where you can't really look at his resume when we're talking about how good he is, because his resume is like a washed up cowboy, uh, washed up Tony Ferguson, and losses to Poirier and Eddie. But obviously, if you look at it in context and you actually watch the fights, you can watch him go at it. And watching those fights, he hurt Poirier a couple times, but he wasn't. I don't think he was ever. I don't think Poirier was ever in any danger of getting knocked out. It was mostly the leg kicks. Although to be fair, Poirier did put on a great defensive performance. The Tony Ferguson fight, I'll just put down to Tony Ferguson being ridiculously durable, and we can look at the Gaethje and Edson fight, not the Vic fight, James Vick. We can look at the Cerrone and Edson fights, and as well as the Chandler fight as example of that. Gaethje probably hits pretty darn hard. Chandler, on the other hand, he hurt Benson Henderson multiple times in their first fight, and a huge part of Benson Henderson's style is the fact that he is basically indestructible. Well, at least in his prime. There's a Patricky Pitbull, which big lol, I guess. Um, he's all right. He's somewhat durable, but he's not. I'm not sure if I'd say he's insanely durable. And what's his face? Chandler hurt Eddie Alvarez multiple times in their fight, and Eddie gets rocked a lot. So I'm not too sure how to rate that. So I'm just gonna have to go off what I see in my opinion, because I'm not too sure if I can use the relative durability of each of their opponents, because that seems to even out. Connor's only win at lightweight is against Eddie Alvarez. And, with that common denominator, Chandler seemed to hurt him the most. So, I guess factoring that in, this is a huge ramble. Factoring that in, as well as what I've seen from their other fights, and the fact that Chandler's at least, probably the fastest of the three, is, probably the second most precise of the three, and probably has the second heaviest hands behind Gaethje. I think Chandler is a safe pick. Is Peter Yan boxing overrated? Well, I think I'm going to bring this into a larger discussion of why I think Peter Yan has become slightly overrated. But in short, I don't think he has overrated boxing, in the sense that I think he's probably the best boxer in the UFC right now, and he's one of the greatest strikers we've ever seen in MMA. Do I think he'd do bad? Do I think he'd do well in professional boxing? No, because obviously the best MMA boxers would not be anything above an average boxer. So no, I'm not too sure. I don't think his boxing is overrated. What's properly rated is his fight IQ. Now, onto what I said about Yan being overrated. I think people act like he's this unstoppable Terminator who can figure out anyone, when I think there are multiple guys who I would pick over him pound for pound. He's probably the best bantamweight we've seen, so I don't think bantamweight has produced a fighter who could beat him. But I do think someone like Prime Aldo could beat him. I think Holloway at size parity would be pretty troublesome. I think Volkanovski at size parity would beat him pretty comfortably. Brief reasoning: Volkanovski versus Yan would be an insanely competitive decision that I think Volkanovski would win, because he does not start slow. I think Prime Aldo would win after seeing how freaking competitive a washed-up Aldo with, if I recall correctly, no knees, the cardio of a smoker, and the inability to react to any volume anymore. I would trust a Prime Aldo to win the early rounds, because I don't think Yan would be super insistent on pressuring him, and Aldo can get away just out fighting. And he'd probably go toe-to-toe with Yan in the pocket and might win enough exchanges, because Yan lost several exchanges to Aldo, and if it's prime, fresh Aldo, he's going to win a lot more exchanges. And Holloway would give him a lot of trouble, because Holloway has a great jab. Holloway has these enormous combinations, and Jan's like an intelligent headhunter, if that makes any sense. I think he could block a lot of Holloway's shots with his high guard, but Holloway's a bit of a slow starter, but I wouldn't trust Yan to cut off his slow start.
And the fact that Holloway can just tank damage, I think, will allow him to win a ton of exchanges with Jan. A couple more people I think could beat Jan pound for pound. I think Khabib could beat him pound for pound. I'm not sold on Jan as being this unwrestlable god, considering that Aljamain Sterling, as good of a grappler as he is not uh, a master offensive wrestler, and he got pretty close to taking Jan down a couple times. Jan just reversed position. So yeah, I don't think Yan has overrated boxing, but I think he has become a little bit slightly overrated. Which is a shame for me to say that about Peter Yan because his fight IQ is incredible and he's an incredible fighter as a whole, even if I never quite liked him that much. Okay, sorry about that. Very poor answer. Happy Rad asks thoughts on Radu Kanu. Yeah, okay, that's a tennis player. I don't follow tennis. Uh, she's yeah. Stop simping, bro. Okay, how will the clinch battle between Yan and Usman play out? Actually, I think I will save this one for the end. Goat St. Pierre asks, PEDs, is everyone on them? Who's on them, etc.? I think there's at least a 30% chance that everyone is on them. Yeah. After that, I just kind of go like, thought for thought, person to person. I think cost is on them. I think there's some people who are more suspicious than others. Okay, like everyone has like a 20% threshold. You know, everyone is like 20%. I think they're on it, and then because that's everyone, the only ones I talk about are the ones who I would make a real fuss about. So Cormier hits that 20%, but I'm not going to make big fuss because you know, taken chicken. Anyone? Someone like Chandler is pretty suspicious, but I'm not quite sure if I would automatically declare him as suspicious because I'm not too sure if he's you know, because he hasn't melted in his career, similar to Woodley, and he is very clearly on a slow decline. And also, he's completely gassed out after one round, but one round just recovers incredibly fast and pushes through it through sheer will. So Chandler's kind of I wouldn't be surprised, but I wouldn't go after him for it. And then the most suspicious would be someone like Costa. Hardest matchup for each champ in each division among the current contenders. Moreno Oscarov rematch, or a Pantoja rematch would be pretty interesting. Probably either one of those two. Yan, this is a toughie. Sanhagen, we've already seen that. We've seen both of them, but Sanhagen can actually go 5 rounds with him, but he can't compete with him for 5 rounds. Aldo can compete with him for 5 rounds, but he cannot go 5 rounds with him. So pick your poison between the two. Yeah, and by the way, I do not think TJ has much for Yan, in case that wasn't obvious. Volkanovski, Holloway. Korean Zombie could actually be pretty interesting because Volkanovski tends to exit the pocket in straight lines in a very predictable way, and that's probably his biggest defensive hole. And I know that the Zombie is going to counter him hard, he's going to hit him hard, he's going to counter him for it. Now, that being said, Volkanovski has a very quick recovery, and he's probably going to rip the Zombie's leg to shreds with leg kicks, and he's probably just going to outclass him in every other aspect of MMA. But like the Zombie has that for him, if that makes any sense. But it's definitely Holloway because Holloway is just on another level compared to all the contenders. At 155, okay, Charles. Gaethje, I think. And actually, if Chandler's not shot, I might pick him in a rematch, considering that after the Gaethje fight, I'm not too sure if Charles could survive a war of that caliber, which, again, considering that, if Chandler shows up in the form he did against Gaethje, I would definitely pick him over Charles in a rematch. Plus, we've seen him just Hulk his way out of a back mount from Charles. But, like I said, Gaethje, I'm still not too sure who I would favor between the two, so I will come back to that. Makhachev could be pretty troublesome because Makhachev is a very smart submission hunter and a very good wrestler. But Charles is so much better on the feet. He's a more intelligent pressure fighter, and I think he's a good enough scrambler where I'd pick him over Makhachev. Makhachev versus Peniel will tell us more about that pick. So yeah, I guess Gaethje is the hardest. Chandler is a maybe. Makhachev is a maybe. 170 Usman. Luque, definitely Luque, and after him, maybe Leon. But again, I'll be answering this question later. 185 for Israel Adesanya. Robert Whitaker or Alex Pereira. 205, Glover Teixeira, probably Ankalaev because he'd out athlete him. Rocket could be somewhat troublesome because Rocket can wrestle and he's very long. And is that it? I think. Sorry, I don't. Obviously, I'm not memorizing the light heavyweight rankings. So yeah, I guess. Yeah, probably Rocket or Ankh. Yuri could dead him, but I'm not too sure about that considering that Yuri isn't the best wrestler. And Yuri hits very hard, but he is mostly I consider him a volume guy. I think he's like relative to the division, I'd say his power is like similar to Poirier's in the sense that he hits you and it hurts, but he's not going to one shot KO you, and he's mostly volume. So I'd say Glover's hardest one is Ankalaev. After him, after Ankalaev, Rocket or Yuri. And at 205 heavyweight Ngannou, I already told you who I'm picking, but it's gone. Stipe, I think, is completely shot. Derek Lewis is worse than Ngannou in every single way, including KO power, I think. Curtis Blades lost to him twice, and I think Volkov is just going to get deaded. So yeah, gone. All right, so this will bring me back to the first question. Fourth question. How will the clinch battle between Leon and Usman play out in a rematch? So I think I'm going to drag this out into a longer discussion of how I think the fight will play out because I can't just say, oh, if they get into a clinch, because that kind of just ignores the context of how the clinch exchanges will happen, when they will happen, and why they will happen. So this will basically be a rambling on Leon Usman 2 from here on out. So if you don't want to hear it, I recommend you leave right now. Well, so thoughts on Leon's recent showings. Now, people call Leon boring and a point fighter, and to an extent, I think that's kind of true. As one of the few people who unironically likes Leon Edwards, even if he's an enormous diva sometimes, I think the boring point fighter criticism has some weight to it because much worse fighters like Cerrone in Nate have been able to like shove him and kind of push him around and make him super uncomfortable by just as Cormier would put it or Rogan would put it, like making it a fight, just kind of swinging in, making it ugly, trying to actually brawl. Like I remember in the Cerrone fight, Cerrone was pointing to the floor and saying, "Yo, let's brawl in the center." And Leon literally just countered and moved out and refused to get in any sort of extended exchange because Leon Edwards is pretty poor in exchanges. Well, at least not poor. We haven't really seen him in exchanges. He prefers to avoid them. People call Volkanovski a point fighter, and here's the thing: Volkanovski actually builds on the advantages he creates. If he has you hurt to the body, he's going to go to the body again. Leon Edwards does not do that. If you force a fight out of Volkanovski, like Chad Mendes did, like Ortega did, and Max Holloway in their second fight, he will respond in kind. He will start fighting back. He's a tough ass motherfucker. He will fight back. Leon Edwards gets kind of flustered, and he just kind of like tries to bring it back to just this boring look. Not as a Leon fan, I'm gonna call him boring from now on because I can't really think of another word without sounding like Joe Rogan. Technical, he tries to keep it to a boring fight. He just tries to, 1-2, done. 1-2, done. And if you fluster him, he just crashes into a clinch. He's quite a good outfighter. Nice kicks. He can counterpunch very well. He doesn't have any terrible defensive holes. Like you said, competent outfighter, and he can crash into the clinch when he gets flustered. And he's got some very nice clinch entries and some great framework in the clinch. So that's kind of my thoughts on Leon Edwards. Now, here's the thing. People say that Usman is kind of on a technical decline, and I kind of agree. And I do think that is in part to his move to Trevor Whitman. Underhooved, credit to Magomed Ankolaev on Twitter for this, but under Hoof he had a cohesive game. He had some pretty nice pressuring footwork to get to his clinch game, to get to his chain, which he would rip people up in and use it for his chain wrestling and to implement his absolutely crushing top game. He was probably one of the best offensive wrestlers in the history of the division. And Whitman kind of just turned him into an outfighter. The Burns fight, I didn't tell us much because when Usman did try to clinch, Burns separated, which is one reason why a lot of people, I was not among them, but one reason why a lot of people pick Burns is because he's easy to clinch fuck. But, Usman, as it turned out, outfighter Usman can have some success with Burns by just jabbing him, and Burns is a little bit chinny. I pick Burns because he's a better counterpuncher and he's better in exchanges. Now, Outfighter Usman, as it turns out, just kind of cut off every single exchange before it happened with jabs. He took away Burns' leg kicks. He took away his counters. Burns isn't an amazing counterpuncher. He's just a decent one. So we couldn't really say much about Outfighter Usman, and then obviously the Masvidal one was just a huge KO. Now, then we had the second Covington fight, which Usman took an outfighting approach when I really think he could have just out wrestled Covington. I think he could have pressured him into clinch exchanges, which he would have won by being better in the clinch, first of all, and being much more physical. And Usman took a really weird outfighting approach with him. And he went almost Leon Edwards like, where a god awful striker by most metrics, Colby Covington, as I'm sure you know, is not a good striker, but he is a relentless one and he is a very durable one. So Covington pretty much just ran at him and tried to swing and made it, as they say, he made it a fight. And Usman looked really bad because of it. Every exchange was super ugly. Usman was overreacting to everything that got thrown at him, and it was just kind of an ugly fight with none of the entertainment value of the original one. So I don't think Usman is completely atrophied in the clinch, but I do think that his clinch entries are gone. I don't see any reason to think that his wrestling is bad at this point, but I do think his previously pretty good setups for wrestling were bad, and I don't see any reason to think that his top game's bad. So I think broadly what's going to happen is that they're both going to try and outfight each other because Usman, for some reason, doesn't want to really pressure anymore. Hoofed Usman, I think I'll talk about both in order to contrast the pair. But I think Hoofed Usman will go into his normal pressuring right away, and Leon Edwards has some decent ring craft, but I don't think it's significantly better than Hoofed Usman's pressuring footwork. But Whitman Usman wants to outfight, and he's okay at it, unless pushed past sort of the range that he prefers, kind of like Leon Edwards' first layer. Colby Covington did it because, like I said, he's relentless and durable. Do I trust Leon Edwards to do it? No, he's probably going to concede that to Usman. Now, Leon's definitely better from there. He's got a more committed kicking game. He can counterpunch much better than Usman in like every way. But I honestly think Usman is going to realize that he can just Hulk Leon Edwards because Usman is the much better athlete. He's more durable, and he hits harder, and he's got better cardio. And after seeing someone like Cerrone and Nate fluster Leon at points by just kind of trying to make it ugly with them, I struggle to think that Usman would not do the same and force Leon to crash into the clinch. I think Hoofed Usman would pressure into the clinch, and then we get those awesome clinch exchanges. Now, assuming against Whitman Usman, I think those clinches will happen in open space. I think Leon will be at an enormous physicality disadvantage because freaking Bilal Muhammad, of all people, reversed him against the clinch. And Usman is bigger than Bilal Muhammad. He's better than Bilal Muhammad, and he's bigger and better than Bilal Muhammad. I wanted to denigrate Bilal Muhammad one more time because I like Wonder Boy and Bilal blocked me. So the thing, Usman, he loves those uppercuts to the body. He's not he has some nasty knees at times, and he likes to go into his wrestling. Leon Edwards is pretty good at defending wrestling from the clinch, and he's more of a knees and framework. He has better knees and framework, I think. He loves to throw knees up the middle to the body. He's got some very nasty elbows that he slices your face up with. So, like I said, Usman's physicality is probably going to negate a lot of what Leon Edwards does, especially if he gets to his wrestling. And I do think he can take Leon down because as good as a defensive grappler as Leon has looked lately, I still think Usman is one of the better grapplers of the division, even if he's completely nullified his way of getting to his grappling by taking an outfighting approach and losing his clinch entries. But like I said, if he hulks Leon, which I think he will, Leon is going to crash into the clinch, and then those are going to initiate. So what I would expect is Usman's probably going to really mess him up with physicality. But I also think that Leon's going to land a decent amount of hard shots. I think he's going to defend a decent amount of the grappling until Usman gets him down. And I think he's going to really force Usman to try and hulk him. And Leon, like I said, has some good enough ring craft, and Usman's completely lost his pressing footwork, so I think he can avoid most of the hulking from Usman. It's just going to be at times he's going to get caught and probably going to initiate the clinch. So purely talking about the clinch, which is your original question, I would favor Usman in those. I think he's more physical. Uh, by the way, just saying, unless his clinch has been completely gone, he's more physical. He has more. What's it? I'm not sure. He has more avenues in the clinch. Leon's not exactly a grappling threat from the clinch, whereas Usman very much is. But expect Leon to do some very nice things with knees up the middle, framework, wrist control, and to smash Usman off clinch breaks, because that is where Leon Edwards shines. It is those clinch breaks when he decides to work in his elbows. He is going to really hurt Usman off those clinch breaks. So it's basically going to be Usman wins the clinch exchange until, and if/when Leon breaks and lands a big shot. So yeah, that's probably how the clinch exchange is going to go. Against hoofed Usman, I think Leon is going to get ground down against the fence, and he's not really going to get that many opportunities to get a clinch break because he's going to be on his back. So that was my very long answer on how I think the clinch battle between Leon and Usman is going to play out again. I think they're going to be mostly even, but I just don't think Usman's going to be able to press those clinch exchanges more often. And going back to how I would predict the actual fight, I'm actually not too sure, considering that Leon doesn't like to build on any advantages he creates, and the fact that Usman could just athletic him and hulk him over and force him past that first layer. So I'm not too sure who I'd pick right now. Might lean Leon if I'm feeling nice. Might lean Usman if I'm feeling assholey. So yeah, that was my really rambly second episode of Diamond Elbows Diatribes. Pretty tired. Half asleep right now. Thanks for listening, I guess. Bye bye.